Welcome to Joy of Business Radio, hosted by Joy of Business facilitators from around the world, with special shows from Simone Milicis, the founder and creator of Joy of Business. Are you bored or dissatisfied with your work or business? Joy of Business is an invitation to a completely new way of creating. Did you know your business and job can actually be fun and joyful? If what you are currently doing isn't working for you, listen into this show full of pragmatic tools from Access Consciousness, which change everything in business, from money to finance, staff, creativity, productivity, communication, and beyond. Joy of Business Radio, weekly on OMTimes Radio.
Hi, and welcome to this week's Joy of Business radio show on OMTimes. I am your host this week, Melanie Meade. I am a JCF and I'm on the Joy of Business team. And this week I am joined by somebody I know very, very well. It's Paul Kearney. Hi, Paul.
Hey, Melanie, how you doing? Great to have you. Great for you to have me on the show.
Yeah, and we know each other very well. So for anyone who's listening, we've known each other for years and we're actually a couple. So not only do we go on dates together and go out together, we actually also do a lot of business together. So I'm going to introduce you to Paul first. Paul is a wealth and you are a wealth as well. It's probably something we'll probably touch on later on the call. I might have been getting ahead of myself, but you're actually a wellness coach and a business consultant. And these two things that you've actually spent maybe 20 years cultivating over different modalities. You actually have a vast knowledge and experience of so many different ways of the way business and actually wellness is done. And what Paul says is he has a deep desire to empower people to live a life they love. Paul's well known nationally for a lot of what he does and internationally also in various different levels, and we can get into it more during today's show. And he works with individuals, companies and organizations to find their voice and to be a power in the world and create what they know is possible. So welcome, Paul. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, Melanie. Great to be here. Yeah, really looking forward to the show, and I love the work that Simone does and all the Joy Business team. So I'm a PTF, and I'm looking forward to creating more in the world with that.
Yes, and you're a newly fledged PTF. So for people that don't know what a PTF is, it's a put the fun back in business facilitator. And what it really is there's lots of tools and techniques, not to have us running around deliriously laughing, but to actually create more in our life and our business. And what Paul and I were actually going to talk about today is something that we both we actually both came from two very different sides of it, and we've met at this particular stage in our life in a particular place. But now with the tools of Joy Business, a completely different point of view. But it's actually how to stop holding yourself back in business. So, Paul, do you want to fill people in on where you started from? Because what I find really funny about the two of us is we both had quite a different lead up to where we're at in business right now.
Yeah, totally. So I suppose for me, I was always a bit of an alpha male, so I was always out there achieving and being outwardly very successful. I was president of the Student Union, I was involved in politics, I was involved in loads of different organisations, and then I started to experience depression and looked for different answers. And some answers, I studied Tai Chi, studied yoga, studied meditation and loved it, but was still looking for more. And then Access Consciousness came along, and I had always worked in international business and started working with Access on various different projects and really enjoyed the way they created, which was completely different. And just looking at ways that I was holding myself back, and I suppose looking at it from a limited reality rather than being more expansive and allowing more of me to come forward rather than being kind of the corporate robot and just doing what's meant to be done. It's actually looking at what gives you joy and what allows you to create the life you love to create and to be. And that's why I really enjoy working with individuals, working with organizations that are looking for change in the world. And I find that very exciting, yeah.
Yeah, and what actually fascinates me about you, and this kind of blends into where I came from in business as well, it's like when I first met you, and this is going back a couple of years now, like you were very well traveled. Like I would talk to Paul, and we'd be somebody visited a country or somewhere, and Paul pretty much has been there. Paul took a lot of time off to travel. Like, I couldn't actually keep up with Paul. I was kind of thinking, you know, what have I done my whole life? Because Paul seemed to have lived an extremely full life, and it was always full of stories and achievements and things like how you went to university and you ended up kind of being a president of the student union. And that was actually like no small feat, because you had to be elected in, and you were there for 2 years, was it?
It was a one year full time role, and there was 17,000 full time students and 4,000 part time students. So yeah, you were kept pretty busy.
Yeah, and it's it's a really big university as well. But like, there as well, you gained a lot of experience. Like, you told me stories of like running projects. So like, how old you have been, and what kind of responsibilities did you have at that age?
So at that age, I would have finished my primary degree. So I was 21, 22, and it was quite a daunting role in one way, because you're leading a team of 14 people and you're on the board of directors of the college. So it is quite an amazing experience. So you're managing a budget of around 140,000 euro at that stage, and they had assets of around 20 million. So it was pretty significant in terms of the numbers, but also in terms of the influence you could have on the college, because the role was quite high profile, and I enjoyed it. It was busy days, but I really enjoyed it, and there was just so much variety and so many different things going on. And at that stage in your life, you're always looking for new possibilities and new things and doing new things. And yeah, I really enjoyed that. It was good fun.
So you were born hungry. Like, you literally left college at 21, became the president of a student union, where it wasn't like, how would you put it? It was a job that did actually have depth to it, because you did actually have to look at the needs and requirements of students that were in the college. So you actually dove straight off the deep end and went straight into business. Like, what made you choose at such a young age to take on such what people would actually consider a prestigious and an important role?
I suppose I'd always been involved in sporting organisations and political organisations, but now that I look back on it and reflect upon it, I was looking to change the world, and I was looking for organisations that were willing to change the world. And I looked in politics, I looked in business, I looked in spirituality, and I kept meeting groups of people that wanted to change the world to how they saw it, and that wasn't what I wanted. I wanted creativity, I wanted spontaneity, I wanted joy. I knew there was a place where you could work from joy and you could create businesses from there, but also enhance people's lives. So as an example, one of the projects that we did with the university was getting funding for a new creche, and when I went on to do further studies 10 years later, I was coming through a campus, and I saw the creche that I had laid out the plans for and that we got the funding for. So there was a brand new creche which was 3 million euro funding and looked fantastic, and it was like, wow, what a contribution. So it's funny how sometimes you can plant seeds earlier in your life and you don't consider much about it, but then in a number of years later it can come up to fruition.
Yeah, and in this day and age too, like with education and life in general changing, like mothers or parents, I suppose, requiring childcare is really important for them to feel like they're progressing, like for them to actually go do what they want. There's a level of support that's given to them. And like after university and after being a president of the student union, like you went on to businesses, and what fascinated me about you was like you still are. You're headhunted for a lot of stuff. Like, you're quite good at what you do. You love projects. You've no fear of handling like big projects, multi-million-dollar projects. I've heard of a couple of them that you've been on. They've been quite amazing, and they've got a lot of international recognition. And like, for me personally, and just to jump to where I'm at with this for a minute, is I remember seeing all that about you. And when you were being president of the student union at 21, I was actually a mother to a baby. So I had quite a different start, and I would look at you and I would say you're super confident, like to be able to get out there, be president of the student union, do a high profile job, handle multi-million-dollar contracts, basically just get out there and travel the world. That's a super confident kind of go-getting kind of personality trait, I would say. And I remember kind of going, oh my God, what have I done with my life? I haven't really done a whole lot. I don't have a lot of experience. how the hell am I actually going to create what I knew was possible? Because I would have grown up quite shy, introverted, didn't really believe in myself a whole lot at all. Had some experiences growing up with things like bullying, which actually included bullying by a teacher, which did nothing for my confidence. And that really carried through with me into, you know, like my early 20s. And when I had my son, I actually chose to work in a local government office because it was important for me to be able to get the time off that's required. They had great benefits. They had great like schemes where, you know, you get parental leave. It was kind of not very much the done thing. It's more popular now, but you could actually kind of have a bit more of a flexible kind of working hours for a while. And it wasn't the worst place to get time off and things like that. And it really, really served its purpose for me. A super comfortable, secure job when, you know, the economy was going downhill and there wasn't a lot of money. So I was safe in the knowledge every morning I got up, I went out to work and I came back. But it got to a stage where I was miserable, and I got to this kind of crux point where I was looking at how it really wasn't working for me anymore. I was looking at how old my son was getting and how he didn't really require me anymore. So like the job that I had met a lot of needs for him as a small child, but there was always this kind of burning inside me. I'd be similar to you in the sense that I always knew something else was possible, and that's just the way that I looked at life. I did not know how. So when I met you and I'd hear all these great things, you really did seem like someone that had it more together. But the more we had conversations and the more that we, you know, talked about things, I started to realize we just chose two different paths to a very similar place in life. And what we were really starting to look at now, you through your years of investigation and study and, you know, kind of being out there and in the question, me kind of really shying away, and the point of this radio show too is holding myself back. We came to a particular point in our lives where we both simultaneously were actually asking for something greater. And we can have all the accolades under the sun, or, you know, we can have all the excuses not to step forward. I think deep down the question really was, and, you know, you can tell me your part of it too, is like, we actually just knew something was greater for us, but also something that creates a change in the world. And that doesn't have to be like, you know, a cure to an illness or something massive. It's just that everybody counts, everything counts, and everything matters. And just that knowing that something was there was really starting to eat away at me more. And it came to a point where it was non-negotiable. I actually had to start making different choices.
Yeah, totally. And I think as well there's probably an aspect of where we challenge ourselves. We're always looking to challenge ourselves to be greater than yesterday, so to be greater than we were last year. And not from a place of being superior to people, but just being better, because I think the thing is we're continually looking to grow and develop, and we're also aware of what this planet can be, because it can be such a beautiful, kind, loving place. But sadly, we rarely see that in the world, and it's like what's holding us back so often in business is what's holding ourselves back, and it's being kind to me. And like I look back on all the achievements I had
we're
in
coming
life.
up to an ad break.
Okay.
Paul, we're coming to an ad break, so we'll pick up when we get back. So we'll see you in part 2,
Yeah.
and Paul will pick up exactly where he left off.
No one needs to have a money problem, especially you.
Yeah, did you hear that? You have an unlimited and mostly unaccessed capacity to create money and a financial reality that works for you. Simone Milasas has a brand new book. It's called Getting Out of Debt Joyfully. And right now, when you go to gettingoutofdebtjoyfully.com, if you pre-order the book, you'll get a free online course. What if you can create money in ways no one else can? Just go to gettingoutofdebtjoyfully.com to get your copy today.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Aloha, my name is Jennifer O'Neill, and I'd like to invite you to come join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time for my show, Spirit Chat. Spirit Chat focuses on simplifying the process of using the spiritual tools and gifts you were born with in a way that fits into your everyday life. I also teach different techniques that will help you learn how to navigate the spirit realm and empower you on your own spiritual journey. So join me this Wednesday as I guide you through the spirit world.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
And welcome back to part 2 of the show with, I'm your host, Melanie Meade, and my guest today is Paul Kearney, and we are talking about holding yourself back in business. In the first half of the show, you got to know us. We're speaking from experience very much on no matter where you come from, there's always that element that you know something greater is possible, and we do tend to hold ourselves back. So just before the break, Paul was kind of getting into it for him. So Paul, do you want to kind of pick up where you left off and talk about where, you know, you felt you were holding yourself back and you knew something greater was kind of possible to create?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So the point I'd been making was that it's a lot of the time it's being kind to ourselves, and it's like judgment is what kills creation. And it's like when we judge something, and a lot of the time we're judging ourselves, we end up judging ourselves out of existence, and that holds us back in business. And it's when you become more accepting of yourself and more kind to yourself, the business ideas, they just pop up like magic. So they just show up in different ways, in completely different ways that you can never expect. And it's like I do a lot of international business and meet people with a lot of qualifications, a lot of degrees, and a lot of PhDs and all these different components. But it's the person to the person. That's how business is done. And it's ultimately business is being kind to ourselves, and it's allowing that to be the place that you function from, rather than being a place where it's like, okay, I need to get this. It's like, okay, what can I contribute here? What can I give here? What would make this easier for everybody? And it's finding that space where it's a win-win-win situation where everybody wins. And sometimes you have to be patient and wait for that to show up, but it's knowing that is possible. I think that's very refreshing for me. How have you found it, Melanie?
Well, for me, actually, when you were talking there, it's true. Like, I never got a degree in college or anything like that, and I always kind of measured myself up against it. And the one thing you hit on there is it's more about who you be. Like, there's people that have amazing degrees and talents and have studied some phenomenal stuff, but there is a part in the practical application that actually adds the brilliance, and it's the brilliance of who you are. So it's kind of like, the question I would ask is, what did you define business as? And that's a question I would strongly recommend a lot of people ask, because I have to ask myself that one a lot. And I did, because I had a lot of decisions on what business looked like, and I very much used that to hold me back. I thought I was. Now, I was told, like when I was in school, funnily enough, it was a business studies teacher, would tell me I'd amount to nothing. And those things just rang in my head for years. And I believed it because she made me feel so stupid. And also, because I didn't have the degree, because I didn't tick the box, because I was an introvert, I had a lot of becauses, I could not create in business. What I found was the tools of Joy of Business actually made such a huge difference. And the thing about it is too, and like I would really like to stress it to people, is this isn't just about business. It really is about your life. You know what I mean? Like, the way I see myself has changed through the tools of Access Consciousness and the tools of Joy of Business together. And learning to more about myself and to create using the tools, kind of getting out of my head, getting out of the definitions, has actually enhanced my life. You know what I mean? I feel a lot happier. I'm a better person. I look at challenges differently. When things pop up, I have ways of actually looking at them and asking questions, rather than, in my case before, would have been feeling defeated. You know, it's kind of, you know, oh, I'm not qualified enough, I don't know enough. And there's no magic pill. there are questions and there are tools that you can use. Because the one thing I've learned the most, and it's the one thing I find myself saying an awful lot right now, there is only one of you. Nobody knows what you know, and nobody sees the world like you. So there are people that you will absolutely inspire, and they will go, that is the most amazing thing I've ever heard. And there are people that will think you are ridiculous, crazy, uneducated, whatever. And that's absolutely fine as well. We are all aware of possibilities, and if we don't choose it, nobody sees it. Now, I stole that quote from Brendan Ross because I was listening to him talk the other day, and he's actually another JCF, and it's absolutely true, is if you refuse to be who you be, know what you know, and share the possibilities that you know are available, you might actually possibly be denying the world of something amazing. Because if you look at a lot of the creations that were made, like, for example, the light bulb, we come into our room now, Paul, we switch on the light, or the switch and the light comes on, and we don't think much of it. But I'm pretty sure back in the day it was quite a revolutionary concept. If anybody that has given us some of actually our basic comforts that we have now, including the wheel, I'd imagine, if they had went, no, this is way too crazy, too out of the box, I'm not going to do it, the world would actually be a very different place. And we're also one of those people, and we're also one of those people that get to create that kind of thing out in the world. And it's actually a choice, and we get to choose whether to be it or whether to not be it. But my first tip, if I was to give anyone a tool straight away, was actually, what have you defined business as? Because I can guarantee you it probably is not that at all. It's what you actually make it to be.
Yeah, totally. And the thing is, we've definitions for everything. We've definitions for family, we've definitions for friends, we've definitions for business, and they're all limitations because we're putting in a box. So something that should be open and free and flowing, next thing has to try and fit in this box, and then we get caught in this box, and we're caught in a box of our own creating, because it's the definitions that we try and define upon ourselves, and we're putting limitations there, and it's actually allowing ourselves to be unlimited, allowing ourselves to be totally open to all the possibilities that the universe can be, because if we had infinite choice as an infinite being, we could do anything. And it's like one question that I love, that I ask a lot before any meeting or any project I'm doing, what are the infinite possibilities here? So literally, just write it a certain, and I'm not saying it out loud, just saying it in my head, but like, I sit on boards with multi-million pound decisions and multi-million pound projects running, and we can have numerous ones running simultaneously, and it's willing to look at all the possibilities, because once you're willing to stay in the space of openness and being yourself and looking at different possibilities, the things always show up. It's when we get stuck in the right or wrong. So we get stuck in the fixed point of view of this is the way it has to be. When it has to be that way, it can only look that way. So if you walk into a sweet shop and there's 100 different types of sweets there, but you're just looking for one chocolate bar that looks like this and it's purple and it has this color writing, that's the only one you're looking for. You can't see all the other possibilities. And life is like a sweet shop. We have to pick what chocolates you want to eat, and it's just, you don't know, it's just an adventure. You just go with it and keep going.
Yeah, totally. And for me too, like when people ask me how I create my business, I actually said it was based on curiosity.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, no, it's kind of, as you were saying too, like, as in you gotta ask questions. And when you were talking there, actually, what came to mind was, you actually don't need to know everything about business to be in business. And that's another way we actually hold ourselves back, is we feel we need to know everything, that we can't, go ask, for example, an accountant a question, or somebody who, or the bank, or I'm sure we can come up with a million people that are experts in their area, and because we don't know what they know, then we can't do business. Because for example, if you were an artist, or, for example, like a wellness coach, like you are, Paul, like there's nowhere in your repertoire when people come to check your CV that it stipulates you have to know about VAT or taxes or, legal requirements, like filling out documents. Like you'll have an awareness that you need to pay your accountant. You'll have an awareness that there's certain forms that might need to be filled out. But people forget that there's other amazing people out there in the world, and it's working together to create it. And I just find that's another way people hold themselves back. So for me too, it was, and it can be admittedly a bit daunting when people, like what I would call nerd out, because I do social media, and when I start talking about it, like, Melanie, what do you mean when you say that? Because I love what I do and I get so into it that I just start talking. And I find that when I'm listening to, we'll say like that, an accountant, and they're talking to me about form numbers and words, and you're kind of going, I have no idea what's going on right now. But what you do instead of making yourself wrong is actually to go into question. And I think that's what we forget, Paul, is we forget that there are so many questions that we can ask, and there's so many people that we can consult with and employ to assist us to grow our businesses even more, and for us to actually focus on what we're brilliant on. You know what I mean? But going into business, you kind of have to put your big girl or big boy pants on and actually go, okay, so I provide this service or this product, but in order for this to work, in order for this to be a successful business, there are other components that we do actually need to add into the mix and to consider for it to be a successful business. So I actually know we're kind of coming up to a break, so I don't really want to go kind of dive deep into the topic, Paul, but I do know that you're really good with kind of what we'd call, well, for me, it would be stuff like finance and accounting and, you know, that side of the thing where there's a lot of jargon. When you have a global business, when you're kind of dealing with the whole world, it can be a little bit different, just, you know, kind of working locally, and there's different things to consider. But maybe after the break, you could actually share some really good questions and things to consider for when you are feeling out of your depth in business, and kind of maybe different ways that we can actually look at it and kind of maybe not feel so bad about ourselves that when we do go to take care of our business that we don't know everything. Because I presume with the people that you talk with too, that you find that they find it quite daunting, and they actually, what you were saying there earlier too, is they limit the choices they can make based on the knowledge that they have. Would that be true?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I'd be delighted to delve into it further after the break, because there's a lot of definitions in there, and there's also a lot of things where people feel, oh, this is the way it has to be, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like that. It's just that in the past that may have been a choice, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's what's required in business now. So I'd be delighted to delve into that.
Yeah, no, it's cool, because I do find that when people feel a little bit out of their depth, we tend to step back rather than actually step into and actually look at what's going on, what's possible, what questions we can ask. And if you could take anything away from today, these questions might be really, really good things to play with to see where we can actually take our business and stop holding ourselves back. So we're heading into our ad break now. We'll join you on the other side, where Paul and I will talk about stuff that we shy away from.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Tune in to the Practical Intuitive, Mind, Body, Spirit for the Real World with me.
The moderator has left the conference.
At 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern. I'll cover personal and business intuition, animal communication, mediumship, space clearing, past life regression, shamanic insights, energy healing, soul choice, and more. All to help you tap your own intuitive and healing skills. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Putting the fun back in business. Wake up, go to work, come home, watch TV, go to bed, repeat. Business, work, your job, hate it, bored, want to leave it? Or business, work, your job, fun, play, joy, fun. Which would you like to choose? You may not know this, but business, your job, work can actually be fun. Shake up your business routine. Check out my 3-part free video series on putting the fun back in business. Go to accessjoybusiness.com/fun and put the fun back in business.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And welcome back to the next part of the Joy of Business radio show. I am your host, Melanie Meade, and my guest today is Paul Kearney, and we are talking about holding yourself back in business. And maybe what Paul's going to share next might actually propel us forward and stop holding ourselves back and get into creation and actually create what we actually know is possible.
Yeah, totally. Well, as we had spoke about earlier on, a lot of the time as businesses grow, you'll need different professionals. So you'll need maybe a legal advisor, maybe you'll need an accountant, maybe you'll need somebody doing compliance work, whatever it may be. And for each country, it's different. And as your business grows and becomes bigger, small things become more important. So in terms of language, in terms of time, in terms of knowing who you're speaking to, what markets you're addressing, all become very important. But a lot of the time, we get lost in the, oh my God, they're an accountant, or oh my God, they're an international lawyer, or whatever it may be. And it's like, rather than asking, okay, what's required here? So what does this person need to know? Because in business, there's terminology, the same as science, the same as poetry, the same as any language or any occupation. There's certain specialized language that they use, but not to be overawed by that, because I find a really good question is, what do I need to be aware of here? Because when you ask them that, it's showing, okay, I'm open to learning more here, but also they can show their knowledge and say, yeah, look, you need to be aware of this, you need to be aware of that, and it may be a certain country regulation, or it may be a certain tax law that's changed, whatever it may be that comes up, because by the nature of business, it's always changing. And one of the things that I really got from Joy of Business and Simone Molasses was that they look at it and they say, hey, everybody thinks this is the way business should be, compared business can be anything and everything, and it's actually having joy with it and realizing you don't have to have all the answers, which is just a massive relief, rather than having to go in and spend hours preparing for business and have every possible question covered. It's like looking at it and able to explore the possibilities, because rather than there being problems, there's just more possibilities. So if we're willing to flip problems upside down, you've got possibilities. And on the far side is so many infinite possibilities.
And when you say there's a joy to it, like sometimes people think we're crazy. So when you say there is a joy to it when you're creating it, like what's that for you?
So for me, it's multiple projects. I remember meeting a yoga master before, and he said you can only do any one thing at any one time. And to an extent, he was correct. It's like in terms of any one given moment, you're going to be doing something. But it's having multiple different things going on, because by the nature of who we are, we enjoy having 10, 15, 20 different things going on, because we like to create. We're the creatives of the world. And the thing is, when we're not being creative, we turn that creative energy in on ourselves, and it becomes actually destructive, because that incredibly constructive energy is being turned inwards, and it's rather than it being expressed out in the world, we're holding ourselves back. And it's being willing to really step into it and be the energy of creation. So just continually creation. And like if you lived your life in 10-second increments, you'd have another 10 seconds, and then that's over, and then you've got another 10 seconds, and then that's over. And it's life is that fast, because it whizzes by, but it's enjoying every moment of it. And it could be choosing a cup of tea, it could be going for a swim, it could be going for a cycle, doing whatever it may be that gives you joy. And it doesn't have to be it may not in one way be related to business, but can end up being a major business. A lady I was working with was telling me that she loved dogs, and animals was a big part of her life. And then she ended up setting up a business where she was walking dogs, and that's what she was doing every day, and she loved it. And it's just infinite possibilities in all different areas.
And actually, we were talking to somebody today too, and we were talking about something that we'd like to create, and there was possible revenue streams in it. And he was correct in what he said, and like it was something I would say too. He said, put the joy first, like the love of creation. And he said, not necessarily the money second, but when you make everything about money, it becomes very closed in and focused. But as you were saying, when it becomes about the play, the joy, the creation of it, like the curiosity, like when you actually get to add what you know to stuff rather than follow just the 1, 2, 3s of how things should be done, it's a far more enjoyable place to be in life. It feels less obligatory. It feels less like, at school you have to sit down with your pen and you chance the questions and you must put them inside the box, where like if you actually got to explore what was in front of you, it changes everything. You actually get to share what you know, whether, people agree with it or not. But it becomes, it's like play. Because when you were talking, it just reminds me of like when my nieces like are colouring in, or they're, like I have a niece who's 1, and she actually loves to come sit in my lap and pretend she's working. She gets a pen and she writes and she's happy out, and then she's gone again. You know what I mean? Like there's this curiosity, there's this, as you were saying, 10-second increments, like take it or leave it. When she's done, and she's moving on. And it's a very liberating place to be because you're not tied down by anything,
Yeah, totally, and also you're willing to lose. So if you're creating only one project, and this is going to be the one answer to all your problems in your whole life, and that can be in any area. It could be in relationship, it could be in money, it could be in business, it could be anything. But where we have one solution to one problem, and it's like rather than having 100 different projects, and if something falls away and it doesn't work, or a business closes up, whatever the case is, you're like, cool, I'll just create another one. And it's having the willingness to continually back yourself. And it was a question that I was asked recently: if for a business, if your life was a business, would you invest in it? And like the thing is, the answer of course should be yes, but for a lot of us, we're frightened to invest in ourselves. And like I spend a lot of time investing in training and growing and self-development, and I can see the fruits of that now when I work with people. And it's willing to be in the place where you're uncomfortable, to learn more and to look at it and say, okay, I don't know, but I'm willing to keep taking a step. And the universe always provides. The universe has your back, and it's just up to us to continually be in the question and keep stepping and keep asking the questions that leads to more.
Yeah, and I find too, like one of the, we'll say if we were to start chronologically, what I find people will hold themselves back on first is sometimes starting a business or investing in themselves. And when I say investing in themselves, it doesn't necessarily mean money. It's kind of like looking at what you know and what you'd like to create. And we tend to put a lot of things before the choice we'd like to make. So we find every reason not to choose something. And for me, when I kind of, with my day job, when I came to a point where I was just like, this cannot be the rest of my life, because it would be an extremely boring life, very unhappy, very ordinary, very like, I've got a long life ahead of me, this could be it every day. When I started getting curious and playing with stuff, and when I started to work, I interned a lot. So that's one way that I started my businesses. I started interning. What I found was, the closer I got to the possibility of leaving a secure government job, I was like, okay, I have X amount of money, I have this much money, I'll be able to actually kind of, on a modest income, start and then have more time in the day to build my business. What I actually found the biggest stumbling block for me was I actually had to trust that I was good enough and that I could create it. So what I found was I was putting myself out there, and I wasn't hiding behind a day job anymore. And there's nothing wrong with having a day job or being an employee when you love what you do, and like to a degree you're wearing your heart on your sleeve and you're giving it socks every day. Like I know some people are just brilliant at their jobs. For me, I was hiding. Like there was no two ways around it. And it's really funny. It's not always your degree degrees or skills or what you're actually naturally good at. It's us that stop ourselves from going forward. It's that mindset. It's, can I actually make it? And trust me too, it's not just your mind. Other people are kind of hiding out too and holding themselves back, and they project onto you how they would feel if they were in your shoes, because I got a lot of that as well. So I think the first step really into to stop holding back, be it to start a business or make a greater choice, is to actually trust that you got this.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I think one of the things I admire about you is you're very tenacious. It's you keep going. There's no reverse gear, and you keep stepping forward. And I think that's a very important part of the entrepreneur's journey, is that there's no reverse gear. A lot of the time, people look to run back to what they knew before, and it's like, no, keep moving forward. Take what you've received, the awareness you've got, but keep moving forward. Because when you keep moving forward, there's always a new possibility. And sure, people will project on you and they'll say, oh, this won't work or that won't work. But it's getting the awareness of all the different things that you've learned from it. And it's like, I did a course recently, and it was, I got a huge amount of information, learned an awful lot. It was really helpful. And it was I did a presentation, and like the three people I was presenting to was like, we just totally don't get it. And it's like, on reflection, I can see that I was aware of something that they weren't, and it just wasn't in their universe. They didn't believe it was possible. I knew it was possible, and I was seeing it happening, and I could see how it was playing, and it was like, yeah, this is totally possible. For them, it was impossible, and it'll always be impossible because they can't see it. And when you can't see it, it can't be done. And it's having the willingness to look beyond the sheet and say, okay, yeah, there's no boogeyman here. It's me, and it's me that creates it, or it's me that doesn't create it. And even if you don't create it, not going to judgment on it, just saying, okay, cool, I'm not creating today, and that's fine too. It could be for whatever other reason, maybe.
Yeah, and the other thing too you were talking about there is sometimes we're afraid to fail. So failure can be like a total stumbling block. I know the presentation you're talking about, and if you look at that presentation and they had to say yes, and it had to be great, and it had to be like, spot on, like you would never have given that presentation. You would never have gotten the awareness of how different you are. Because the one thing I know, like you and I and other people alike, the circles we move in now, the people that we know, for me, are so different to years ago. These are people that I would call like-minded. They're people that share the same desire, that create that kind of future. And we don't do business like ordinary people, like, by the rule, by the chronological steps. Okay, so we're actually coming up to the break. This show is kind of going quite fast, Paul. So after the break, we will be back with more, and hopefully unlocking a bit more of what we're holding back in business. So we'll see you on the other side.
What do you hate about business? And do you want to change it? If you don't want to change anything about your job or business, stop listening. You're all good. If you'd like to have money just for the fun of it and stop the negative self-talk, check out Joy of Business. This is about knowing what you know about business and creating more than you can imagine. Access Joy of Business 101 classes offered around the world. Go to accessjoybusiness.com/101.
As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living. A chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me, and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And welcome back to what I cannot believe is the final part of the show. And this is where the good stuff happens. So I work in social media and marketing, and they say if you make it to the end, this is where the best stuff is. This is where all the freebies are and all the good stuff, and probably the answer to what people have been looking for. And what I find too is we'd say something like a radio show or doing something like a video poll or kind of putting yourself out there. We always look at how to get it right and how to follow the formula. And like what I was saying before the break, that fear of failure. But I think the biggest gift anyone can be to themselves is to actually not hold back. It's to jump in, it's to take a shot, it's to do an absolutely terrible video, it's to do an absolutely shocking radio show, it's to, write your first unmercifully terrible blog. But in that quest for perfection and everything that we're desiring to create, we hold ourselves back in an attempt to get it right. But if we were willing to put ourselves out there and take a jump, just the willingness to fail or the willingness for it not to work out properly or for it to be torn apart and criticized, it's actually very liberating because then you've done it. Like how many people are holding themselves back in life and in business because they know when they do their first attempt that it's not going to work out. It's kind of like when you look at a child learning to walk, do they just stand up and go? You know what I mean? It's like not necessarily the case.
Yeah, totally. And so often as well, it's acknowledging what we have done, because a lot of the times we get the big judgment stick out and we think to ourselves, oh, no, I haven't done this or I haven't done that or I've been too slow doing this. And the thing is, it's actually acknowledging what you have created, and it's actually looking at what really makes your heart sing, what really gets you excited, what you really enjoy doing, and following that, because money follows joy, and it's the more that you do that's joyful, that brings fun, that brings elements of lightness into your world, it becomes a dance, and it's dancing with the different elements of the universe that can create, and we're just part of that. We're part of the whole cosmos that is the universe, and it's really enjoying that experience, because I feel so sad when I hear of people who are suffering from depression or anxiety or different things, and it's kind of, you're looking at saying, wow, there is a different way. You have to have the courage to be willing to change things and choose something different, and that may sound harsh, but that is the reality. There's things that need to change, and it's allowing that to change, and also realizing that a whole pile of it is not yours, that you're just linking in with somebody else's sadness or linking in with somebody else's reality and saying, okay, yeah. Cool, that's happening, but it's not mine, and really being aware of that and knowing, okay, because that fear of failure, a lot of the time it's not ours, it's somebody else who's saying, okay, I'm not willing to take the step because I think I might fail, rather than just going for it and seeing what happens, because you never know what's going to happen. It's just a matter of just keep taking the step.
No, I was just going to say sometimes something far greater shows up. Like, as in you can't actually plan a lot of things all the time. Like, how many things have we set in motion and has turned out exactly as we had anticipated, like exactly step by step to where we wanted to go. And like for me, I'm a great example of that, is in when I started getting curious and I started looking at stuff, like if I had to decide a couple of years ago what my job or my business is going to be like, it wouldn't be half as big as what it is now. And it's that willingness to step out of the box and go for it and just say yes to things that are just so way out of your world. And the one thing that I was known for is I'd always learn. Like, I figured they'd suggest something to me and I'd go, I'm going to go and have a look at this. And I'd go in, look at it, and I'd come back with information that maybe people hadn't awareness on, but mightn't have had the depth of knowledge that I had. And I actually started to grow business by being curious and looking at stuff. And I do get that containment of living kind of that little kind of limited life of where that fear comes in, where you can't take a chance on yourself, that actually can take over. So I can see where people end up kind of feeling hopeless and maybe, unhappy, and in some cases too depressed. Every choice you made has got to where you are today. And as you said, if you were to put that judgment stick away and just look at where you are now, like everything that you've experienced, being good, bad, or ugly, has given you an awareness, and it has given you information. And when you're willing to look at that without any judgment, just as it is, it's actually really valuable for going forward. It's useful information. It shows you things maybe you haven't thought of before, and you get to learn a lot about yourself. So if you were just to look at, because we were talking too about failure and success, like I always say, because I had a car accident years ago and I destroyed my back in it, so every day was a very, very painful day. But literally, and I still say today, even though I'm a lot healthier, was if I got out of bed in the morning, it was a success. The sheer intensity, the pain, it would have been easier to give up and lay down for a while. But once I actually managed to get my two legs out of bed onto the floor, I was heading in the right direction. So I do get that we expect a lot of ourselves, that we expect things to be fast, good, and perfect. But what if everything was just putting one foot in front of the other?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And does a fox judge himself, or does a rabbit judge himself? I'm not sure. Maybe they do, but it's willing to be. It's willing to be, and maybe a panda gets up every day and says, "Well, I feel super fat." I'm not sure, but it's looking at it and seeing it, like that kind of highlights the ridiculousness of it in terms of how much self-hatred we can have and how tough we can be on ourselves. Like the Dalai Lama was saying when he came from Tibet first, and somebody asked him a question about self-hatred and he didn't know what it was. They just didn't understand the concept. He'd never heard of it. It just didn't exist in Tibetan philosophy. And it's like, the thing is, for all of us, it's we've picked it up somewhere, and it's like it's letting go of it, and it's just being in the question and looking at what else is possible, because things are always changing. And it's like when a little kid falls down, they don't say, "Oh my God, I've fallen down, I'll never get back up again." They just get up and they keep going. And it's the exact same thing as what you were saying. It's just being tenacious and knowing, okay, I may not get it right, but what if it brings you to a totally different place? And it's just enjoying every moment, because every moment is precious. It's like life is so short, it's there to be enjoyed, every moment of it.
Exactly. And we actually only have a couple of minutes left in the show. So before we, run out of time and we have to race to the end, the one thing I would say for me, it's very much the tools of Joy of Business have created so much more courage and self-belief in my life, and for me to take a chance on myself and what I knew was possible. And what I can say for sure is nothing showed up the way I thought it would. As a matter of fact, it showed up greater, and it has given me the awareness that I can ask for more. And what I get to is different for everybody. So whatever you choose in life, where if you choose greater or further or more or bigger, it might not look like my life or Paul's life or Simone Millis's life or anything like that. But what we do have, and what I would like to tell you, is there are Joy of Business classes that, because Paul, when you were talking there, I was thinking it keeps coming back to definitions. It keeps coming back to what we define success as, what we define business as, how we think our life should be. And then sometimes when we get it, it doesn't seem to be, the big hurrah because we've ticked the box. So what I would like to invite people to is to accessjoyofbusiness.com, where we have JCS from all over the world that facilitate classes. We also have PTS, which includes Paul, that, we facilitate classes online and in person, and just get curious and check out the tools, because I have to say, when I went to my first Joy of Business class with Simone, I came away with changes I couldn't imagine, and trust me, the conversation was hilarious. It's a conversation for another day. But Paul and I actually have a 2-hour Zoom coming up on September 12th called Creating a Business You Deserve. So if it's something that interests you and it's something that you would like to explore more with me and Paul, these are places where you bring your questions. We don't sit down and take you through everything and tell you how it should be. This is where you bring your curiosity, your questions. We share what we know. We've got amazing tools that we can share with you. And if you go to accessjoyofbusiness.com, you will find the class listing there for you to sign up and jump on that Zoom with us for 2 hours and get stuck in and just get curious and play.
Yeah, sounds fantastic. Yeah, thanks, Melanie. Very, very grateful for the call. It was really good fun. And yeah, really looking forward to the Zoom call as well, because that's going to be pretty cool because it's creating a business that you deserve, and it's allowing ourselves to receive it and receive everything that the universe has to gift and that we have to gift to the universe, because it's simultaneous. So it's one's gifting and the other's gifting, and it's gifting and receiving working in harmony. So yeah, it's a particularly beautiful thing. And when you were talking about freebies earlier on, it's just to let everybody know, for the next 2 months I've a special for half an hour for €50, where I just sit down and work with anybody's business, big, small, indifferent. And if anyone would like to contact me via Facebook, Paul Kearney, Kearney will get me, and look forward to working with anybody in their business.
Yeah, and what I find really funny is, as we come to the end of the show here, we both love what we do. Like, you get such a kick out of talking with people and engaging with them and treating them as individuals and looking at exactly where they're at. And that's something I love too about social media. I think one of the biggest gifts in the world is just knowing that everyone has something to share. Everyone has something to give. Everyone's unique. It's very hard to lay down a solid formula. Like, we have guidelines and there's tools and there's information, and any topic in the world, be it finance or social media or anything else. But ultimately, the question always is what would you like to create? And what Paul and I, like, our desire when we facilitate this upcoming Zoom and when we do sessions or when we converse with people, is very much is what you know, and like, how can we, contribute to you. And there's what you find is the more you get out there and you ask questions, you'll find there are more people out there just like you. But thank you for joining us today, and Paul, thank you for coming on with me and talking about it. And we'll talk again very soon. Bye.